Welcome to the Christian Parenting Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Thurling. I'm the Executive Director of Christian Parenting, a mom of 3, and I am so glad that you're here. This is a place where you can bring your real self, no matter what that looks like today, and be given the space, resources, and encouragement you need to set aside perfection and grow into the perfectly imperfect parent God made you to be. Hey guys, today I am so happy to be joined by the money-saving mom, Crystal Paine. Crystal Paine is the host of the Crystal Paine Show podcast. She's a New York Times bestselling author. She's a wife, she's a mom, and her desire is to help women across the globe live with more joy, purpose, and intention in their everyday lives. And today we are talking all about how we can do that with our time. Crystal's new book is called Time Saving Mom, and she is giving us all the tips and encouragement that we need to be better at time management. And I need all of the tips. This is just not my gift. But Crystal really challenged me to not only rethink how I manage my time, but she also encouraged me that it's okay to be a work in progress. I'm kind of hard on myself sometimes, but she reminded me to reframe my words from I'm not good at that to I'm working on that, to use a growth mindset. You will leave this episode with simple and powerful wisdom from Crystal, and I know you're just going to love it, so enjoy. Hi, Crystal. Welcome. I'm really glad to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about your book, but first I want to hear about your family. Can you start by telling us who's in your family and then describe them in a word or a phrase?
So there are 8 of us. So my husband and I have been married for 20 years. I said almost 20 years. I'm like, oh no, it's actually been 20 years. Time flies. And we have 6 kids. They are 18, 15, 13. Then we had 10 years of secondary infertility. And then we have a 2.5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and an 8-month-old. Our second 2.5-year-old, we fostered him for 22 months and adopted him in December. And he has a lot of special needs, Down syndrome, a cleft lip and palate, and a feeding tube. And it's just been a whole adventure of trusting God and learning to rely upon God like never before. And as far as the word, I would say the word is adventure, because that's very much what I feel like God has had us on, this wild adventure. And we also just view life as an adventure. And so if my girls were just in London last week and they had some unexpected things happen on their trip. It was a school trip, and we were talking on the phone to them and we were saying, just view it as an adventure. And that's kind of how we just, instead of it being a hard thing, it's like, this is an adventure, or an unexpected interruption. This is an adventure. You just never know. And it's like just that expectancy of how is God going to show up and be faithful, and anticipating his goodness and his faithfulness.
I love that word. I feel like that is really good for you guys. I've been following your journey with your 2.5-year-old, and it's just such a beautiful story of how God's been so faithful and how you guys have been obedient to that calling too. So if you have not followed this story, you guys should. You share a lot on Instagram, the story of his adoption, and it's in your book too. So it's just a really beautiful story. So I appreciate that. And then I also asked my guests, what is one thing that you want every parent to know?
There's so many things that I would love for every parent to know, but I think the biggest thing is that God is not going to give you more than he's going to give you the grace to handle. Now, that's not God won't give you more than you can handle. God is not going to give you more than he's not going to give you the grace to handle. And that's something that I've really learned, because sometimes God calls you to things that are much bigger than what you are capable in your own strength of handling. But he is so faithful. And so as a parent, there are times when it can just be really hard. Our kids make poor choices. They go through struggles, and we wish that we could take it all away from them and we could protect them and bubble wrap them, and that they didn't have to have hard things, and that they could just figure it out, that they would stop just having the same struggle over and over again, or that we would stop having the same struggle over and over again. But just to remember that we can lean on Jesus in those moments when it feels overwhelming, when it feels like it's too much, and to know that he has given us these kids and that he will give us the grace that we need one step at a time, not for tomorrow, not for 10 years from now, but for today, for this moment. He'll give you the grace to do what he's called you to today.
Thank you for that. I feel like the one step at a time is what I needed to hear today. We had not the prettiest morning, like nothing major, but some of those mornings, it's just everyone's a little grumpy and off, and it was just not a great not a great start to the day, but it was. There were multiple times that my husband and I both had to like take a breath, step back, and just get through the moment. And God gives us the strength for that, but it is moment by moment sometimes, definitely. So your book, Time Saving Mom, is really good. And I'm really excited to talk about it because I kind of told you before we started recording, time management is something that I think we can all work on. I'm not great at it. I accomplish a lot throughout my day. I get everything done, but I just feel like I could do it better and I could do it with more grace. So I'm really excited to get into this conversation. But first, I kind of want to talk a little bit about your background. Like you've been money saving mom for a lot of years. So tell us a little bit about that. And then why did you decide to write Time Saving Mom?
So yes, I started moneysavingmom.com back in 2007. I had been blogging since 2004, 2005 on sort of a mommy blog and realized that so many people were interested in how to save money. It was something that my parents had taught me from an early age and just modeled for me and then giving me opportunities to practice. And so I started blogging just ways that we were saving money at the grocery store and living a debt-free life and just practical ways that moms could save money. And never really dreamed and envisioned that blog was going to then become our family's full-time income. My husband is an attorney by trade. He came home in 2014. And so we've done this for a lot of years, which is, it's crazy to think I started blogging before there was even social media. Like it makes me a grandma blogger, maybe a great grandma blogger at this point. But along the way, I found that there were so many people that they said, we want to get our finances in order. We want to save money, but we're just barely keeping our head above water when it comes to just life. And so how do we get in a position so that we can actually have the time and the energy and the capacity to get our finances in order? And so I blogged along the way about just ideas of ways that I was managing my time and suggestions and tips there. So it's something that I've always been passionate about, but I never really thought that I would write a book on it. And in fact, when my publisher came to me and they really strongly encouraged kind of / begged for this topic and for me to write on it, I was like, guys, don't you know there are so many books out there on time management? Like, do I need to really add one more to the pile? Almost like another to-do for people. But my acquisitions editor is Jennifer Duxley, and she was very persistent. And she said, Crystal, I just want you to think about it. Like, just think about it. She said, because I can't figure out how you're getting everything done. I follow you on Instagram. I'm the Money Saving Mom on Instagram. And she's like, I don't understand how it all gets done. And yet you seem so calm and so happy. And I stepped back for a few days and started paying attention. And I realized, I think it's because I just keep everything really simple. And that's what I told her. I was kind of like, I don't really know that I have enough to write a book because it's just so simple what I do. And she's like, that's the point. Like, that's what we want. We want to get into your brain. And as I started writing the book, then it was just really neat to kind of look back on my life. I start the book with talking about standing up in front of this auditorium full of people for my high school graduation and giving a speech, not because I was a valedictorian, but because I was homeschooled. And so I got to give a speech at my graduation. And my speech was about time is short. Like that was what I wanted to impart to people. And so I've just really had this passion from an early age that I want to encourage people to live their life well, to live in light of eternity, to recognize that we only get one life. And so what does it look like for us to manage our time intentionally so that we can invest it in those things that are really going to matter for eternity?
How do you feel like money saving mom and time saving mom have like gone together? Like, are you seeing a lot of similarities? And as you're writing it and reflecting on it, how do those go together?
Well, it was fun to really get to kind of dive into this idea of time and money and the similarities. Now, there's differences, but there are a lot of similarities. And one of the things that I talk about in the book is how, when we budget our money, it feels like it goes so much further. Like we're so much more thoughtful and careful and intentional with it. And it feels like we have more of it. And I believe the same is true with our time. If we are intentional and pre-deciding our priorities and how we're going to set up our days in line with those priorities, and then budgeting our time, not to make our life miserable or not to be this productivity queen or not to squeeze every minute out, in the best that we can, but more so that we can set up our days so that we're living for what really matters. And so pre-deciding how we're going to spend our time, budgeting our time, it feels like we have so much more of it and we're so much more intentional with it. And we don't get to the end of the day and be like, I know I did something. I was really busy. I'm really tired, but I don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah. I love the way your book, it is really simple. And that's what I think is, Jennifer was right. That is what makes it so beautiful because it's really attainable. And you break it down in a way that it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Kind of like budgeting makes sense once you get the hang of it, once you get, the language and what you're supposed to be doing. And there's also freedom in what you write about. It's not like rigid. It's not this is what you have to do every minute of every day. So I think it's great. And you include so many things in it about faith and parenting and home life and work. Like you manage a lot of things. Like you have a very busy life. So, and a lot of us do. And you have a 4-step system. It's kind of how your book is arranged. So can you tell us about that 4-step system?
Yes. And so this was also one of those things that I wasn't just like, for years I've known this is my 4-step system. It was sort of as I was stepping back and saying, okay, what is it that I do? What are the rhythms that I have in place? What systems do I have in place? And I realized this is just naturally what I've been doing for years and what gives us the framework to be able to just like I talked about in the subtitle, juggle a lot, enjoy my life, and accomplish what matters most. And so I like alliteration. So the 4 words are pray, prioritize, and then plan and prep. And I kind of had to go to bat for starting it out with prayer, not because my publisher was like, Jesus doesn't matter, but more so because people so often they want to jump to the practicals. Like they're like, just give me the, how-tos. But for me, if I don't have that foundation of reliance upon Jesus, then all the how-tos in the world aren't going to allow me to live my life with that peace. Because you can have calm in your heart, even if there is not calm in your home, even if there's not calm in your schedule, because you're finding that deep peace in Jesus. And so starting my day from that posture of prayer, from saying, God, all I have and all I am is yours. And maybe I'm carrying something heavy. Maybe it's like you talked about, you had a rough morning. And so that's your opportunity to really lean in on Jesus and be like, I'm feeling irritable today. I didn't get enough sleep last night. And I, just feel like there's so much to do. That for me is when it's like, I get to rely upon Jesus. I don't have to do this in my own strength. And so starting my day from that framework and really praying over the details of my day. So starting, just thinking through what is, planned. What are the activities that are planned? What am I carrying that feels heavy right now that I just need to release to the Lord? What are my kids, my husband, what are the things that are heavy on their hearts to just release it to the Lord and ask for God to give me wisdom to walk with them? Just starting my day, laying that foundation of I trust you and I am leaning on you and I want to go through my day anticipating how you're going to show up and be so faithful today. It just changes my whole outlook and my perspective because I'm not then trying to white knuckle my way through life. I'm not, feeling like I got to micromanage all the details. I've released it to the Lord, who is so much greater and bigger and more capable than I am. And I'm leaning on him throughout the day. And then, as something comes up, as there's a difficult situation, or as I'm just feeling like stress rising or tension rising, to be able to go back to that place of releasing it to the Lord and just asking for his help and leaning on him. In the book, I talk about flare prayers and just that opportunity throughout the day to just shoot up that prayer and just ask God, help me right now. Spirit, give me the wisdom for right now. I don't know what to say, or I don't know how to respond, or I don't know what to do, or this feels too heavy. And just having that mentality changes everything. And then it gives the ability to then move into the prioritizing and the planning and the prepping, but from a different framework of mind.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but I think that the task of raising a girl in today's world feels daunting. And my daughter, Harriet, has 2 older brothers, so all the girl things and conversations are new to me as she grows. And that's why I'm so grateful for Tara Matson and the Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters courses from Christian Parenting. In these courses, you'll be guided through 8 monthly one-on-one dates and intentional conversations to deepen your relationship with your daughter. So when you purchase your course, you'll be equipped with monthly videos to help you understand exactly where your daughter is spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, no matter what age she is. A conversation guide to deepen your relationship during those super fun one-on-one dates, a downloadable journal to create and strengthen a connection with your daughter throughout the month. And the best part is there's a course for every stage. So no matter what age your daughter is, you can have the tools to build a safe and trusted relationship where she knows you can listen and talk about the real issues that are concerning her. I'm going to be going through these courses with Harriet. She's in 2nd grade, and I'm hoping that some of her friends and their moms will join us. So get a group together and walk this journey with friends. I know these courses will help you with your desire to raise a confident, godly daughter. So register for your course today. Join us this summer and grow a deeper relationship with your daughter. And for June, we are offering these courses for just $39. So visit cpguides.org to select your course today. That's cpguides.org. Well, and I do love that you end your chapters with a little prayer. And so you give people like examples of this is just try this, like you can just say this prayer. And if that's what people get from the book, I think that's really amazing that they could learn to. I think I've learned that because I find I'm a big flare prayer type of girl, but I was really convicted in your writing. I was like, I don't think that I have really offered my big picture daily time management to God. Like minute by minute, I'm there because I can't do it on my own. And I know that. But I'm like, I need to really get serious about offering my time to God in a bigger way. I think that's just really important. So I really love that you start your book like that. Tell us about the other ones too.
Yeah, so prioritize. Once we've laid that foundation, that framework of reliance upon the Lord, then figuring out, what is God calling me to wrap my time and my life and my energy around? What's going to matter in 25 years from now? I always think of if this were my last day, how would I want to spend it? And so really prioritizing well. And there's something about when you kind of zoom out and take that, long view of what's going to matter at the end of my life. There's so much that then doesn't matter in the day-to-day. There's so much that we can spend worrying about, stressing over, psychoanalyzing that in the big picture doesn't matter. And so it allows me to just kind of let go of so much. And I outline in the book my 6x2 priority system. And this is something that I've been doing for a number of years. It's been so helpful of viewing my week as a whole versus my days as individual units. And so I think a lot of times what moms especially will feel so much stress over is the fact that they have to do all the things every day. They have to prioritize all the people and all the projects. And then they feel like I can't be anywhere fully because I have too many places that I need to be. And so when you're sitting there with that child who's struggling, you're also thinking of, oh man, my home is so messy right now. And I have that work project and I haven't spent enough time with my husband. And I really want to reach out to that friend. And so your brain is just feeling like you're pulled in all these directions. So the 6x2 priority system is so helpful for me because I just focus on 2 priorities per day. So for instance, yesterday was Monday and Mondays, I just reset my home. And so my home is usually always the priority. So I start out the week. We don't do a lot of dishes and cooking and things on the weekends. So it's usually a little bit messy on Monday mornings. So just taking a little time, 1 to 2 hours, usually just to reset the home. And then I also had the priority of friendships and relationships. And we went out on a double date last night. It could also count for marriage, but so we went out on a double date with friends last night and so those were my 2 priorities yesterday. And so then today I have some extra work projects and I'm going to spend some time with my kids because they're home for spring break. And so those are my 2 priorities for today. And so every day I'm rotating the 2 areas that I'm focusing on and usually spending an hour or 2 of time in those areas. And it adds up. You think of if you're spending twice a week, an hour or 2 really focused on your home or really focused on relationships or really focused on your marriage or doing some extra business projects or really, leaning in with your kids, that adds up over time, but allows you to be fully present where you are. So that's prioritizing. And then the next one would be planning. And I talk about my hybrid planning system. I use a mix of Google Calendar and a time block to-do list. And I outline how that works in the book. But it's just really for me allowing myself to just get it all out of my brain. I feel like as moms, when we have 37 things that are spinning around in our brain, or maybe 370 things spinning around in our brain, it just feels like so much. It feels so heavy, and it's just mental clutter. And so using Google Calendar to just brain dump all of the things in my head, all the details, all the to-dos, all the tasks, all the things that I want to do, putting it in a place that I can access it, but it's not up in my head. And then using a time block to-do list to kind of be my brain on paper for the day. So then I don't have to think. I just do the next thing, and it's a budgeting for my time. And then finally, prepping. In the book, I talk about this is not just prepping our space and, prepping with a morning and an evening routine, but it's also prepping our mind. And I think mindset has such a big impact. You were talking at the beginning about how, you just feel like you're not good at, you're not doing a good enough job with time management. And I would just really challenge you, instead of saying, I'm not good with time management, to say, this is something that I'm working on. If we change it to something positive, that gives us a lot more kind of this inspiration and this motivation. This is something that I'm working on. And so instead of being like, I'm not organized, I'm not an organized person, that's just kind of going to keep us stuck or make us feel frustrated or like we're failing. But instead to be like, I'm working on becoming more organized, and then acting as if, thinking of how would an organized person act? Well, I'm going to act as if I'm organized. And so feelings usually follow action. But if we just sit there stuck in that mindset of I'm not this, or I can't do this, or I don't do this, we're probably just going to stay stuck.
We talk about a growth mindset with our own kids so often, but sometimes I think as parents, we're really bad at it. But you're totally right. I should be doing that. I'm going to start that today. So I am curious how this has changed for you as you've had kids, because you have 6 kids. And like you said, there's a 10-year gap in between them. And then you had 2 in a matter of the same year. I mean, they're the same age. So, but not twins. So how has this system kind of changed as you've had kids, as you've had more kids, as they've gotten older? What does that look like for your family? As a working mom, 2 of my goals for the new year are to take better care of myself and simplify. And one of the ways I'm doing that is with HelloFresh. There's a reason HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. They make it so simple. All I have to do is pick my meals and my delivery date, and all of the pre-portioned ingredients and step-by-step instructions come right to my door. That means less hassle, less wasted food, and they have health-forward options like over 30 calorie-smart and protein-smart recipes each week. The recipe cards are easy to follow, and they're full of pictures, so it makes cooking with my kids really fun too. And we all know that when they are involved in the cooking, they're more likely to eat it, so everyone wins. We have a great deal for you right now because I know that mornings can be crazy as a parent. I often find myself forgetting breakfast or grabbing something really fast. But you can go to hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree and use the code CPPodcastFree for free breakfast for life. That's 1 breakfast item per box while the subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at hellofresh.com/CPPodcastFree with the code CPPodcastFree.
It's really interesting to be in this season where we have these 3 older kids, and that we had gotten our children to the place of independence. So we were all done with the diapers and the sippy cups and buckling and unbuckling kids out of car seats and potty training and all of that, and really had a lot of freedom with our time. And it's funny because my husband and I will look back and we'll be like, we thought that we had a lot going on then. Like, what were we doing? And, but there is a lot. Like when you have older children, I feel like it takes a lot more mental and emotional capacity, and younger children take a lot more physical capacity. Yeah. And so there was a lot, but I feel like that has given us a very different perspective with now having 3 little ones. And it's funny because we went for 10 years, and then we started fostering and found out that I was expecting. And so we brought home a little boy from the NICU that we had for 8 months. And our daughter was then born 4 weeks later. So we had 2 newborns, all of 2020, pretty much all of 2020. And then...
Which was a great year to have a newborn.
It was a great year. It was like people didn't see us for a few months, and then like, wow, you guys have been busy. It was always interesting, but it was such a sweet time. But it was we learned a lot and grew a lot, and we're stretched a lot with having essentially twins, but not. And then 3 months after the little boy that we were fostering reunified with his mom, then we said yes to David. And so then he is 2.5 months younger than our daughter Kirsten, but they're at very different levels developmentally. And so then 4 weeks after we said yes to adopting David, found out that I was expecting, which was very much, it's like, oh, we done all the testing and all the fertility stuff. And the doctors have said we weren't even candidates for IVF. And here we have these 2 biological children that were, conceived naturally. There's no explanation except for just God. But anyway, it's given us a very different perspective of having these older children and then now younger children again. And I think one of the things for us is to recognize like this time when they're little goes by so quickly. And when you're in the thick of it, it can feel like it's never ending. Like I'm never going to get to a place where I'm not just spending my day wiping bottoms, doling out snacks, cleaning up spills yet again, unbuckling out of car seats, and it can just feel like, does this matter? And I think having our older kids has just really helped us to recognize that this is very important work. And so I think how it's shifted my time is that I just am really choosing to embrace these moments, embrace the sameness, the work that might feel menial, but to know that it truly, truly matters. And so much of my life the last few years has been just holding and rocking and caring for little ones. And to know that that is work that is eternal significance. There's work that, it's a lot of work, but it is so worth it. And I think especially as foster parents, seeing the results of children who didn't ever have that. They didn't have the parents who, picked them up and comforted them when they cried or gave them a snack when they were hungry or, that they knew where they were going to be sleeping that night, that they knew that they had someone to care for them, and how it affects children for the rest of their life when they don't have that attachment happening in their home and that security there. And so to realize this is such a great work, and this is, even though it can feel so menial some days or just mundane or just the same over and over and over, it is so important.
That's such good encouragement for younger moms who just feel stuck, because those years you can feel really, really stuck. I did. It's so hard because when you hear those things, you're like, no, it's really never going to go by. It's really never going to go by, but it does so fast, and it's so beautiful. And it's so great to see the fruit of the work that you put in to your kids as they grow up. Your older kids, your younger kids probably don't do as much, but your older kids, like, how do they help with your systems and all of the things you do around your home? Like, what does that look like for them? Have they incorporated some of this stuff yet?
So one of the things I talk about in the book is ways that I simplify. And one of those is that we really ask our kids to do a lot. And I was raised in a home where we were expected to do a lot of chores. And I look back and see that that's such a gift. Like that set me up so well for life. And so from the time that our kids are little, we've just really said, you're an important part of our family. You are an asset to our home. And I want you to recognize that and really empower them to realize the worth and value that they bring to our family, but then also empower them to become more capable and independent. And I think as moms, so often we can take so much on our shoulders that if we would just spend some time to teach our kids and really speak life into them, that they can do this, they are capable of this, and then walk with them and praise them, encourage them in it, they can do so much. And so for our older kids, our job is to raise adults. Like, we want to raise adults who can go out into the world and be independent, not dependent children who for the rest of their life are just coming back to us because they haven't had the opportunity to really practice and learn those skills. And so slowly we just keep kind of releasing the rope. Our oldest is 18 and she lives at home, but she's a senior this year, but she is pretty much completely on her own as far as her money and her, taking care of all of her responsibilities and all of that. And I'm just so grateful for that, to see that in her and to realize, even though I could have done a lot for her, I'm grateful that we just encouraged her to learn and do things on her own and to step out and try. And yes, to make some mistakes, but to make them in the context of our home so that we could be there to kind of be that safety net when things didn't go as she, had hoped, or she made a mistake, or she made a, wrong choice. And so that's something that we just really empower them to, they can do the cooking and do laundry and get themselves out the door in the morning and take care of all of their own schoolwork and homework. And if they need to have a conversation with the teacher, like that's something that they can do on their own. We're happy to give them some guidance and some ideas, but I'm not going to step in unless it's a really dire, difficult situation. I want them to learn to take ownership of their life and have those opportunities while they're still at home so that they feel that confidence as they go out into the world.
Yeah, we're at the age with our kids where we're starting to really make sure they're doing some of those things independently. So I liked reading what you guys do because like my oldest is 11, so he's in 5th grade. And it's very much, this has been a year of like, we're checking your homework kind of with you, but we're also letting you figure it out on your own. And that's been, it's been hard sometimes, but it's an encouragement to hear like, no, this is important. Like he needs to do this now so that he can learn that responsibility. My middle recently also decided he needed to wash his uniforms before school. So he put all of his every single uniform in the washer like 10 minutes before we had to go to school. And I was like, oh, this is a lesson on how laundry works because now we're going to have to figure something out. But he learned, and now he does it at night if he wants to. And it was sweet that he even wanted to try to do that. It just made me really happy.
Well, and I think it like changes your perspective when you see it as like, they're trying, instead of getting frustrated because this is how they're going to learn. And I think over time, like, I feel like one of the reasons that I have a lot of breathing room in my life is because our older 3 are so independent and I just get to be their mom and to get to have conversations with them and to get to walk with them, but they're doing so much of their stuff themselves. And so it just frees me up to be able to pour into them and love them because I'm not constantly having to chase after them, be like, did you do this? Did you do this? Do you need me to do this? And so I just feel like that's such a gift that we give our kids, but it also it's a gift we give ourselves as well.
Yeah, totally. And I just think that's really good for people to hear. Like it is worth, people like me, like it is worth it to let your kid figure out their homework and laundry and all those things. Like that is a good practice, even when it's harder. Before we go, can you just give like, if people are wanting to implement some of your steps, they want to read your book, what is just like a really good first step for getting a hold on being a time-saving mom?
So one of the things that I really wanted in this book was not to just be like, here, I'm going to give you all these great ideas, but really the practical step-by-step, here's how you walk it out. So at the back of the book, I have a 7-week plan that I walk you through. Add this, then when that's going well, then add this. And so it's just very much baby steps to hold your hand through the process so that you don't overwhelm yourself or try to overhaul your life overnight. And I think just really asking some clarifying questions can be so good. One of the things that if I feel like kind of stress is rising up in my heart to stop and say, where am I not trusting God? What is wrong? And what can I do about it? And so a lot of the times when we're feeling so stressed and overwhelmed, it's because we feel like it's our job to micromanage and fix everything and everyone in our lives. Like we're talking about our kids, but it can be so many other areas as well. And so if we can practice that release of that to the Lord, that one little step can change so much in our life. It can lower our stress level and it can increase our joy level and also just give us a whole lot more breathing room because we're spending a lot less time trying to just, clench our fist and white knuckle our way through life. And so I would just say, where am I not trusting God? And what is wrong and what can I do about it? And so then what is some practical step that you can take? And it might just be set your timer for 5 minutes and get up and wash the dishes or go make your bed because good habits beget good habits. And so if we can just take that next step instead of sitting there being like, it's so overwhelming, I can't do anything, do something. And I find that just saying for 5 minutes, I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes. I'm going to tackle this one area. Oftentimes that will give us so much motivation to keep going and to do so much more.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Can you just let everyone know where to connect with you and where to get your book?
Yeah, so I would love for you to connect with me on Instagram. I'm The Money Saving Mom on Instagram. Like we talked about, I share lots of behind the scenes of just real life with having 6 kids, and also lots of time saving tips, as well as money saving ideas and suggestions. And so that's The Money Saving Mom on Instagram. Also, I have a podcast called The Crystal Paine Show. And then my site is moneysavingmom.com if you are looking for ways to live intentionally when it comes to your finances and like great deals.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I just really enjoyed our time together.
Thank you so much. This was such an honor.
I really loved how Crystal emphasized the need to simplify and the encouragement to release our time and our days to the Lord. I have all the links to her books and info on how to connect with Crystal in the show notes, so you can go find her there. Thank you for joining me this week. May God bless you and your family. He has great plans for your life. May you remember to number your days and apply His wisdom to your heart so that you can honor Him in all that you do. Thank you so much for listening to the Christian Parenting Podcast. If you haven't subscribed, you can do that now, and that way you won't miss an episode. You can connect with us on Instagram at ChristianParenting_org and see more resources at ChristianParenting.org. And if you're a mom raising daughters, we have the perfect course for you. Visit cpguides.org to learn more about our Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters online courses. And lastly, if you have enjoyed this podcast or other Christian parenting resources, please consider donating to this ministry. Visit christianparenting.org and click the donate button. Christian Parenting is 100% donor funded, and none of this would be possible without your help. We are so grateful for you. You're amazing. God bless you.